Hello, everybody, and welcome to 1 year later, a year in review. I don't know what to call this thing. So we got this new game, Warhammer: The Old World, almost a year ago. It's time for the anniversary, and I said back then that I would re-review everything after doing all my first impressions. I've sat and played with this game for 12 months. I've recorded, oh, I should have counted, several hundred, not that's too many. I recorded hundreds of Old World battle reports. My rule book is heavily beaten up already, and it's time to review it proper with the actual experience. So I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is, no joke, my favorite edition of Warhammer Fantasy. I have played every edition starting at 5th edition, and in fact, within the last 24 months, Luke and I, we played every edition from 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Even fan edition Warhammer the Armies Project within the last 24 months. Anyway, this is my favorite because this is, I think, the first time they've made combat something I really enjoy. But I'll get to that. This was a learning process book. It was a slow process for me. I got so many things wrong, like we all did, for the first, I don't know, dozen, maybe even more battle reports. But to be fair, I'm going to defend this book a little bit in that regard. I remember about a decade ago when I took over doing Warhammer Fantasy battle reports for mini wargaming. I thought I knew how to play the game. And it's not until you record yourself playing Warhammer Fantasy, put it on the internet, is when the masses point out this rule on this page, this rule on this page, interact this plus this, and you realize that you thought you knew how to play the game and you didn't at all. And the only reason I was able to speed up learning this edition is because so many of you watch my battle reports and tell me exactly what I'm doing wrong and point out the page numbers. Was this a hard book to learn? If you compare it to other modern Games Workshop games like 40K and Age of Sigmar, those are, I think, easier to pick up due to the writing style of those rule books. This one had, we'll call it a classic Games Workshop writing style, where you're going to go to find a rule in 3 different sections of the book. Well, sorry, to find all the interactions you needed in 3 different sections of the book. But after you find all of the relevant sections of the book for the particular rule you're trying to understand, it all comes together. And to be fair, this game has more complex interactions than a modern Games Workshop game does, so it is not going to be the easiest thing to write. I'll say this: I did not enjoy my first couple of read-throughs through this book. It's a little daunting, but after playing it a bunch of times, I like it now. I really like it now. Well, I think I like it right away, but I mean, I'm saying the game plays very, very well. There's only one rule interaction in the game after a year. It has to do with skirmishers, that you can't play rules as written. But we all kind of knew right away how to handle it. It was a skirmish rule where if multiple units are going to charge a single unit of skirmishers, charging rules, all charging models move simultaneously, but skirmishers count the 360 degrees around them as their front arc until they're formed up in combat. So if you were charging them from multiple air quote arcs, it got janky and not completable through rules as written. But I mean, it hasn't been, at the time I'm recording this, it hasn't been covered in the FAQ yet, but we all know how to handle it. We're all doing the same thing. Basically, you move the first unit in, and then the skirmishers form up as a skirmisher normally would, and then you move the rest of the units. And that's how we're all handling it. That's the only thing in this book where if you're how to word this? There's only one interaction in this book where it's not actually covered. In a game where there's so many possible outcomes of a situation, only one that I found to be an actual problem. And if there is another one, something that you've come across that you think there's no answer to in the book, you played into a situation, you can't see a rules as written solution in the rule book, comment below. I'd like to see if I can find an answer to it, or if you found something that we haven't come across. But that being said, literally hundreds of games I've played of this, and no 2 games have been the same. My absolute favorite part of this edition is combat. I talked about it already, but I'm gonna talk about it again. So I've never been a combat guy. I'm an elf guy. I play Hiles a lot. So I like to play shooting and magic and avoid combat. Use my Great Eagles in 8th edition so often to prevent my opponent from pinning down my big fighty blocks until I'm ready to fight. But now with the fall back and good order mechanic, um, I don't know. There's something about brawling that I really really enjoy. Now, so this mechanic really shines when you're playing rank and flag Warhammer. So you're not playing competitive Warhammer the old world. Warhammer competitive lists tend to be more MSU, Hero Hammery, not many ranks. You're not getting many flanks, but when you're just playing like good old rank and flag Warhammer, both players are playing infantry. You end up in combats that end quick, go on forever. End up in a weird position where you thought you were winning, and all of a sudden now you are behind them because of weird fallback in order of operations, and things are getting flanked, and oh now it's bad because you won the combat, but they fell back in order, and you chose not to follow up. It's the combat I think is so much fun because no matter how well you plan, you can't perfectly see the angle you're going to be overrunning or falling back in good order from, because it determines by how many models you killed often. If you kill too many models, the center of somebody's unit shifts just enough that they end up running in a position where you didn't want to have to chase them. I love that. So I think combat is absolutely nailed, and I think that's, in my opinion, that's what you really really want in a Warhammer fantasy rank and flag type game. Whereas every edition I've played, right even from 5th edition, 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy, very Hero Hammer-y. 6th edition comes out, they tried to make a lot of infantry a thing, and they kind of succeeded with that. Also, the flavor of the army books are amazing in 6th edition, but I was still very capable of playing a interaction denial type list where I want to stay back and play like magic and prevent you from really engaging with me. 7th edition was more of a cavalry focused edition. 8th edition was a Death Star infantry edition. Then we had a couple of fan made editions, and this edition really is the Wizard and Hero Hammer edition as well, I think. Dragons have been dominating for a while. Competitively, you see them often, and then people know how to handle them, so you still see them often, but the top winning lists aren't always bringing dragons. But in your casual rank and flank, if you're bringing infantry squads on both sides, dragons can be dominating. Probably too oppressive. Actually, Jax, I'm going to ask you, how often, you probably can't hear him, but how often are you guys seeing dragons upstairs in the store when you guys are playing? Because you guys are playing very casual rank and flank. I'll have to repeat what you're saying.
Yeah, very, very, like you said, we have like a very casual crowd upstairs. And at first, when the edition first came out, we saw tons and tons of dragons all the time. And as people figured them out, they're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't bring this every game just because they're dominating.
So if you, so what Jack said is, I'll repeat in case you couldn't hear him. At the beginning, you saw a lot of them, and then people stopped bringing because they're so dominating. In fact, that's something that Luca and I have. Well, even my regulars, Luca, Midge, Dale, and I, we all have the same kind of thing. We kind of don't bring the big monsters. You kind of feel bad bringing them because either your opponent is able to, you're both doing them and you're able to deal with each other's, shut them down well enough. The game kind of ends unsatisfactory. But when you don't bring them, now this is just our experience. You may be bringing monsters in your list all the time, like super dragons all the time, and you're enjoying it great. But we're finding that it just not adding the satisfaction to the game that we like in our Warhammer games. You too, yeah. So yeah, we stop bringing dragons too often, or if we do bring them, we let them know, hey, I feel like bringing a dragon today. Make sure you're prepared for it. Not that you need to prepare for it, but it just makes the game easier. I don't want to go on a long tangent on dragons. Wizards, another thing. This is, even though a heavily toned down Magic Edition, still very dominating and very impactful on your games. I think it is not it is very rare to not see a level 4 in competitive Warhammer. And even in casual Warhammer that Luke and I on the streams play regularly, and I play with my guests when I do like the members only games. Uh, I think you're seeing a level 4 probably every time. How about you guys? A level 4 every time?
Oh, every single game.
Every time?
It's a level 4, usually paired with a level 2 with them.
Yeah, no. I know Lucas had some success. We've actually all had some success with theme type lists, like all gas no brakes type lists where you just ram knights forward, whatever. You can get away with no wizards. Bretonio can do it. Luca does okay with his Khorne Warriors of Chaos list, but right now Magic is very dominating. Now to expand on the fact that Magic is dominating, it's weird because I know from the conversations I've had with you guys are still a little split on do you like the current Magic system. So in the past we've had resource pools. I don't dislike the current Magic system. It is simple. I would like to see the spread between level 1s and level 4s kind of like mushed together a little bit. I think level 4s are they gain too much over the rest, so you only bring level 4s. But outside of the level 1, 2, 3, and 4 type issue, just the system of roll your dice, add your wizard level, no pool of dice. I don't dislike it. I know some of you miss your Magic dice. Many of you are just new to the edition and not experienced anything but this. But I'd say I'm fine with it. If a new edition of this game came out in the future and they brought back the pool of dice for Magic, I'm okay with that too. I really just don't dislike the Magic phase. I know some of you that's a criticism for many of you, but I'm okay with it. I actually like it. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna keep asking the guy without a mic on. Where do you guys stand on the Magic phase?
So all of us initially thought that we would hate the new Magic system. I say we all judged it far too harshly.
Yeah.
And after the first couple months, we were like, okay, you know what? This actually isn't bad. I kind of like this.
Yeah. Okay. So judging it harshly at first, and then growing to like it. Yeah. Magic phase, I dig. I love combat. At first, I'm gonna say as I'm gonna speak for the entire community, but people I was speaking to were a little concerned with the power of war machines being greatly reduced. And I think it's hard for me to say. I think I felt the same at the beginning of the edition, but a year later, I think war machines are in a damn good spot. Damn good spot. Cannons, I like the way they're operating. I will say, I'm not going to talk about the individual armies yet. We'll do those in future videos that are all going to come out real soon. But I will say, honorable mention to the dwarves. Their cannon should be D3 plus 1 damage as well. But no, war machines are in a good spot. There's still a fair bit of criticism for ballistic skill shooting, but even I think that is dying down. I think we're starting to see some value with them. Wood Elf Archers, Glade Guard, I didn't like at first. I'm liking them now. High Elf Archers, I'm okay with. Empire Archers, I'm liking. I'm even liking Empire Handgunners and Crossbowmen. They're cheap enough to throw some shots downfield. I like Orc Armor Boys, even though I always cut them out of my list. That brings me to another thought. Let's talk about core troops. So this is the first time in many editions where infantry, the rank and flank stuff hasn't been great. In fact, you're often no, I'm gonna say every time you're better off not bringing your rank and flank infantry. If you have core knights, you bring your core points as knights. If you have a core skirmishing type thing, you probably want to bring that instead of any of your units with ranks, banners, combat type units. They just don't work. And is this my first criticism? A criticism I have for this edition is not all core has been treated equally. I actually don't like the fact that black orcs can be core. Bring a black orc general, your black orcs are core. Longbeards, you bring I think a king, you make Longbeards core in dwarves. Then there's the Sisters of Avalorn for high elves. You bring I can't remember what she's called, a high sister. I can't remember what she's called. You bring a certain character, and then Sisters of Avalorn or core. It almost invalidates the core aspect of the game. I think list building is something that I really enjoy, but more to that is modern Games Workshop games are kind of losing me a little bit, where there doesn't seem to be actual list building restrictions anymore. 40K would be a very prime example. There, you bring what you want. You have to bring a character, and you bring whatever you want. I like this game that has character allotment. You must bring 25% of your army as core. You must up to 50% special. I really like that aspect of the game. And there's too many armies that can take things that really shouldn't be core and make them core. Like Graveguard, to me, have no business being core. The second you allow them to be core with a stipulation, a minor one, that becomes the only core you ever see. And now I play games where I just don't see skeleton warriors on the field anymore. Like when I envision vampire counts, it's hordes of skeletons. I know zombies too. I still see plenty of zombies, but I want to see skeletons on the field, not just Graveguard every time. I want to see, even though dwarf warriors, like their longbeards are just better. I don't want to see longbeards as core. I don't want to see rangers as core. This is the criticism. I don't. Everybody's gonna agree with me on this one. This is one thing that I don't really like about the game. I don't like Sisters of Avalorn as core. I don't like Black Orcs as core. I want core to be core again. So let's make core again. That's one criticism I have for this game. Other than that, tone down some Hero Hammer. Do I have to not? You have to tone down Hero Hammer. I'm gonna think while I'm making this video. You need to tone down Hero Hammer. When I said that, I was only thinking about Bretonia. Actually, that can. So that's another criticism. I'll go to another criticism I have. I don't think Pegasus or Royal Pegasus should be skirmishers. Flying heavy cav with skirmish is really powerful, mostly because skirmisher is really powerful. Skirmishers hasn't been as powerful in Warhammer fantasy games as it is in this edition and many editions. I think Skirmisher could use some toning down, but not that big a deal. The big offenders would be the Bretonian flying cav. But I don't want to talk about Bretonians. We'll talk about them in the Bretonian book. I wouldn't mind a rule brought back that has existed for a long time, actually, that a character, flying characters may not join units that fly, even if they have fly themselves. So the Bretonians had in the past characters on Pegasus and units of Pegasus. Characters could not join Pegasus units because characters couldn't join fly. It just allowed them to bounce around too many wounds. But that's a minor criticism. I don't need to bring that up. But that would tone down the Bretonian flying circus, even though back in 7th edition it was also a pretty powerful thing as well. Another thing about combat I want to go back to is the step-up mechanic. A mechanic we've had in the past that we're seeing again. I really enjoy it. It actually makes initiative a little bit more impactful again. That being said, initiative isn't the end-all be-all. I remember at the very beginning of the edition, there was I want to say arguing with many people online, talking about how bad dwarves would be because their initiative is so low. I'm like, they're still going to get weapons, initiative 5 often when they charge. Now, how often they get charged, that's a whole separate argument. But yeah, initiative, the step-up mechanic I think is really cool. I'm glad it's back. A very positive experience with it, but not the end-all be-all. It hasn't made initiative bonkers. Like, we're not seeing elves just dominating every combat because they're faster than most things they're fighting. Even though, to be fair, a lot of things had their initiative reduced as well. So, and some got it increased. Like orcs, for example, in this edition had their initiative increased from 2 to 3. Whereas elves and warriors of chaos typically had initiative 5, they got pulled down to 4. Now elves got a special rule to like help out with that a little bit, but it feels like they play tested and played around with it and like had to actually tweak it. And I like that. I think the step-up mechanic is well done. Weapons is a conversation that we've all had numerous times. I like the way almost all weapons are operating, except for blowpipes, which are ridiculous. I'm not getting into that. I think they just don't work, especially when the only unit in the game that can take them can also take javelins, which have a good useful purpose to the game. But like the thing to talk about with actual mundane weapons is great weapons seem to be the end all be all. No, spears are awesome on your infantry, rank and flank stuff, but your great weapon is very often a weapon you're buying on characters, even over magic items. I have no suggestion how to tone down great weapons, but they just seem to give you a lot, especially with the making you strike last, but you're often striking at initiative 4 with them, so striking before many things at the same time as some things. But yeah, great weapons seem to be the end all be all for like characters and heavy anything. Spears are good defensively. I just like the amount of attacks you can get with spears. Like even with my source, which I think are damn good stats, they have a rule called obsidian weapons. So they have AP1 on their hand weapons, but I play with their spears more often than not because the second rank of attacks is more valuable in most situations over the AP on only one rank of attacks. So yeah, the spear is a damn good weapon. The great weapon is a damn good weapon, and the lance is a damn good weapon. I almost would like to see, not that I want to criticize, but I almost would like to see the lance have the same restriction as impact hits. Like the lance must move 3 inches to get the strength bonus. That just seems intuitive to me. It is weird to charge back in an inch and you can't get impact, but you do get the full brunt of the lance. So that's a nothing criticism. Great weapons are where it's at. Magic items have been heavily toned down to the point where there are not that many interesting magic weapons. There are a ton of good magic items this edition, but magic weapons I'm seeing less and less and less and less. And then moving on to magic, I actually like every lore except for the elephant in the room, the one big bad spell. Pillar of Fire. This spell is so good. It's a vortex that you can control the direction that it goes. You can use it to slow down enemy charges, do a bunch of damage. The only criticism I have for magic is the battle magic Pillar of Fire. Make it move random. Problem solved. And then the scenarios. There are only 6 in the book, and there's nothing overly special about them. But here's the thing. I've played dozens, probably hundreds of battles of just open battle. The basic scenario, the first scenario of the game. The game plays so well and everything, you're never in the same situation twice that I can play open battle over and over and over again and have a freaking blast. You and I can play the exact same army list 3 games in a row, 5 games in a row. We're not going to have 2 identical games. They can be all open battle with the same list, and we're going to have different games every time. With the push and pull of combat, the way the fall back in order works, the game is just super enjoyable because of the pieces and the things that happen in the game, not because of the scenario, which is, I don't even know how to like fully articulate how much that means to me, where other games need solid scenarios to play well. And this game, the game just plays well. The scenarios are secondary. We don't need, you couldn't play, can you name another miniatures game that is as popular? But can you play another miniatures game that can play as well without having special scenarios or things to do? That being said, there are narrative scenarios out there on the internet that Luke and I have been playing recently and having a blast with, adding even more elements to the game, like weather and stuff like that. It was cool, fun. Is it needed? No. I could stop playing our narrative scenarios and go back to playing open battle 3-4 times a week and still have a blast every time. So in conclusion, I love this edition. I will continue to play forever until the next one comes out, that is. But yeah, stay tuned on this channel for about 3 battle reports every week of Old World. And also, this is kicking off my run of 1 year later reviews on everything. We're going to do the Magic phase. We're going to do every army, including the Legacy factions. How do I feel about things after playing with them for 12 months? So now I've actually played every army several times. My opinions has changed on a few things, but not that many. We'll go over all that. Thanks for watching. Bookmark the channel, like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. You know how it works. See you in the next one. Happy wargaming.